This video is about an uncomfortable but really important idea. That optimization isn't optional. It's not something we can simply choose to turn off. And it behaves more like a weather system than a controllable method of improving our lives, which is how we mistakenly see it. But crucially, we tend to talk about optimization as though it's a choice, as if the whole of society sat down one day and agreed that everything should be faster, smoother, cheaper, more efficient, and more convenient. But optimization isn't a policy or even a joint decision. It's not something that we've collectively agreed on. Optimization is just a byproduct of who we are as organisms, a force that lives quietly but really powerfully in humanity at scale. It's something that emerges naturally once a species develops intelligence and the ability to imagine alternatives. A cognitive imperative that goes to work in any situation where competition exists. The moment we can picture a better outcome, inefficiency and friction become things that we're driven to eliminate. And unfortunately, once that process begins, it doesn't stop. Not ever. There simply aren't any breaks. What I'm about to discuss is really important because optimization is the thing that's got us to where we are today. It's given us access to comfort, survival, and long lives, but it's also diverting our attention, driving us apart, and gradually sapping our contentment. And so we need to take stock of where optimization is dragging us because it's one of the most powerful forces in building our future. Strip everything back, and at a biological level, optimization is essentially what intelligence does. Brains evolved to solve problems more efficiently than simple trial and error, to reduce wasted energy, increase survival odds, and to make tomorrow better than today. The formula is really straightforward. If something works, we will repeat it. If something works better, we will prefer it. And if something saves time, effort, or resources, we will adopt it. This isn't some kind of ideology we've all decided on. It's pattern recognition. Once you zoom out and take a bird's eye view, optimization looks less like a human obsession and more like a force of nature. Any system capable of learning will gradually remove barriers from its way. Any group capable of competition will push towards gaining an advantage. And any civilization capable of abstraction will start to change the world around it to suit itself. Importantly, once optimization emerges at scale, any attempt to slow it or to try and stop it doesn't work. Because even if one group slows down, another one won't. And even if one country chose to resist optimization, another would just optimize that bit faster. Even if one generation decides enough is enough, the pressure doesn't disappear, it simply relocates. The only moments in history where optimization genuinely pauses are during times of collapse, wars, pandemics, civilizational breakdown, and that kind of thing. But that's just because during those periods, optimization is replaced by survival as a priority. But short of that, it will always find a way through. Even though optimization can be viewed as an emergent biological force, there are some specific human systems that amplify it. Capitalism is one such system, and although it doesn't directly cause optimization, it does pump it full of steroids. Competitive markets reward anyone who can make things faster, cheaper, and more efficient than everyone else. Any company that doesn't optimize is eventually outpaced by one that does. Power structures then solidify this process. Governments optimize systems to maintain control, and institutions optimize processes to preserve relevance. In addition, corporations optimize supply chains, labor, attention, behavior. It's a relentless cycle that's self-reinforcing. But importantly, none of this is malicious. You don't need villains or conspiracies for optimization to change the face of the planet. You don't even need greed, although clearly that helps. All you need is a system where advantages compound. Once optimization starts feeding power and power accelerates optimization, a relentless cycle takes hold. And that cycle feels unstoppable from the inside because, well, basically it is. This is why moral appeals to halt optimization or ban particular technologies can never work. Telling the system to slow down is like asking rabbits not to breed. It's an unstoppable process that emerges from our instincts, the systems that we've built, and an innate, unquenchable thirst to do things better. It's only when you pause to consider optimization at scale that things get really interesting. To be clear, I'm not saying that optimization is inherently bad. In fact, up to a point, it's essential. I, you, and everyone else wouldn't be where we are today without it. For example, cars replaced horses to improve mobility, safety, and trade, while mass manufacturing has lowered costs and increased access. Early social networks reconnected people who'd drifted apart. If you're as old as me, you might remember Friends Reunited, and that might be the only point in history when social media was inherently good. But optimization doesn't make everything endlessly better the further it progresses. It has a threshold. Up to that threshold, life improves. But beyond it, well, that's where the problems start. The benefits begin to retract and the side effects compound. Going back to the earlier examples I gave, cars didn't just give us freedom, they gave us pollution, congestion, and permanent background noise. They even reshaped entire cities by shifting our priorities from people to traffic. And then there's social media networks, which didn't just connect us, they rewired our attention, monetized our identity, amplified outrage, and turned human interaction into a data extraction process. The fundamental mistake that we keep making is assuming that if optimization was good at this point, then it must surely be all that much better at this point. But I'm here today to tell you that systems just don't work like that. Once optimization reaches a certain level, it starts destroying things that aren't directly linked to its goals. Little things like meaning, well-being, community, and human contentment. And by the time these costs become obvious, the system is already too far gone to reverse. Unfortunately, with so many things in life, such as cars and social media networks, that's the point we're at now. So where does this leave you? Where does it leave me? And where does it leave everybody? Because if optimization is necessary, if it's inevitable, if it accelerates through capitalism and power, and if it carries a hidden threshold that we only notice once we've passed through it, then what's the point in talking about it? Well, at a global level, I'm afraid there isn't really anything we can do about the broader impact of optimization. But at a personal level, it's different. And it's the part that often gets lost. While we can't stop optimization, we can, each and every one of us, decide on how and where we let it into our lives. We can choose friction deliberately, and we can embrace slowness where we know that optimization erodes meaning. We can also resist some forms of convenience because history teaches us that meaningful effort makes us happier. Put simply, we need to choose optimization more wisely, even though taking shortcuts today will always be the easier option. That's the dilemma. Choosing difficulty today for benefit tomorrow is the hardest thing for humans to do. Because our brains evolved to remove problems now, not to sit with them in exchange for benefits that will come along later. That's why dieting is hard, saving is hard, and learning is hard. It's why building anything worthwhile involves a degree of discomfort at first. Because optimization will always promise relief today, but safeguarding our sense of self, personal agency, and felt meaning requires us to resist it. in some situations to be more content and healthier in the future. And that tension is where modern life increasingly undermines us. We're living inside a system that makes everything easier while simultaneously making us less content as a result. The emergence of AI could make things worse, and it absolutely will make things worse in areas where people let it optimize the living daylights out of everything they do. But used correctly, it can also give us an insight into the dangers of optimization beyond the threshold. It may even allow us to see its shape and to help us set up boundaries around it. Right now, we're not in a dystopia, but we're also certainly not in a utopia. We exist in something less extreme, much softer around the edges and difficult to define. A world in which people are feeling increasingly anxious, less content, and unfulfilled. And as strange as that may seem, I think it's got a lot to do with our relentless attempts to make everything faster, cheaper, and easier. So in the next video, I'll drill down a bit deeper to explore how this dynamic became fully industrialized and why power structures have no incentive to slow it down. Because once you get a clear idea of what optimization really is and how it works, you start to realize something important. While we didn't choose this world, we can do something about how we live in it. Once you see that it's possible to take responsibility and how making small changes can have a big impact on how you feel, not choosing the easy option sometimes becomes preferable. This was the first in a 4-part discussion exploring optimization. Episode 2 will go live next week. As always, thanks so much for watching. I look forward to seeing you in the next video. This video was based on my writing over at layeredfuture.com. If you'd like to explore the full article or browse through other topics, you'll find it all there.